this is just from yesterday.
Oh. And he is going to provide me. He just did it today. He's going to provide me a copy.
So I need $100 from him. Code enforcement file.
I told him you were going to work with me. Come on now.
All right, I'll take 75.
This, I think, is for Mr. Robichaud.
Not a penny left.
April. Okay. Frusac's gonna do the. Frusac's gonna do the minutes. I mean the pass. Frusac.
I can put 2 more back here. Sure.
Julie, there's 2 in my office, but not folding.
Yeah, Hank said he's got experience.
No, they said they were fine. So it's 4.
You know what? This looks different than normal.
I used a different font.
Didn't? No, I meant normally before when it went from there, it listed the things that were going to be.
It does, but I went
You
ahead
put
and
the
put the
narrative
header.
with it. Okay, I got you. Okay.
Stranger danger.
They called my agendas basic.
I think Kim just gave hers up. And the pregnant lady needs a chair. Hey, Julie, here, I got you.
I think Jamie just went to get a few. No, I'm fine. Good.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Oh, I fell asleep when I was so tired of being on my legs. Yes, I'll try not to. Okay. Okay. So, they said, I don't need to they couldn't believe it. No, it's not about it. The exercise
Birds in the hall with Miss.
I saw that,
And
yeah.
I made the cops clean up their language. You're good, sir, whenever you're
Are we
ready.
ready? Is the recorder going?
Yes, sir.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Parker City Council for May the 2nd, 2023. Ms. Fusek is going to read the invocation for us tonight. If you would, come to the podium. Everybody come to attention. Stand.
Lord, thank you for a beautiful day and a beautiful village that we all call home. We ask that you guide this council as it makes the decisions to lead our community forward and to be good stewards of the gifts God has given us all. May you bring peace and safety to all in attendance, both those here and those joining us from home. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen. Mr. Chapel. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Miss Barrow.
Here.
Mr. Chappell. Miss Galbraith. Here. Miss Gibson. Mayor Kelly.
Here. Before we get started, ladies and gentlemen, there's something I'd like to discuss with you, and this will be the rule moving forward. When we come to the items from the audience or items from items that you'd like to talk about, from this day forward, you must come to the podium. You must not speak from your seat. You cannot speak from your seat. It will not be recognized. You must state your name and your address, and the clock will start 3 minutes of that time. You're allowed to have 1 3-minute interval for the items from the audience. It can be any subject that's not on the agenda. And as we move through the agenda, anybody can have a 1 3-minute amount of time to speak on each item on the agenda. You can't have 9 or 10 or 15. The only exception is, like, for example, if we have somebody that's petitioning the council, they are statutorily allowed to have more than 3 minutes. Okay? All right, so I open the floor to the people of Parker. If there's anybody that would like to have a conversation, please come to the podium, state your name, your address, and have that conversation with the city council. And then we'll move on. So, oh, that's disappointing. That is disappointing. Okay, thank you. We'll move on. Mr. Sloan, you have something to address the people?
Yes, sir. I just want to remind the council and remind those individuals who are here tonight in their personal capacity, but who are planning commissioners, that the planning commission has not been noticed as having a meeting tonight, and therefore I would encourage no dialogue among the planning commission members, and a one-way dialogue at most between the council and the individual party who may be presenting at the podium. But even that, I would caution against not having a lot of dialogue, because even though a decision that I think they're here to talk about tonight has been already made by the planning commission, I still err on the side of being conservative and trying to keep you all from running afoul of any sunshine laws. So with that said, Mayor.
So item 1 on the agenda, ladies and gentlemen, is a public hearing and request for first reading of ordinance. Sorry?
Approval of the minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry. It wasn't on the, it's not on here. I can see it now. Yeah, the minutes from the last 2 meetings, I'm sorry. We need to have a first and a second on those and
I'll
approve.
make a motion that we approve as presented for April 3rd, 2023 and April 4th, 2023.
Second.
Got a first and second. Madam Clerk, we call a roll, please.
Miss Barrow.
Yes.
Mr. Chappell. Miss Galbraith.
Yes.
Miss Gibson.
Yes.
Mayor Kelly.
Yes, thank you. So again, I say that the first item on the agenda is a public hearing or request for the first reading of ordinance 2023-614. And I guess we have, we need a vote before we
No,
have a
no, sir.
conversation?
You
We-
would have the applicant
Come to the podium.
Come to the podium and make a presentation.
So the applicant for the Coastal Acquisitions of Florida LLC, is that person here? Hey, sir.
Good
You
afternoon.
got the floor.
My name is Philip Santora. I am the owner of All Metal Roofing and Siding, Coastal Acquisitions of Florida, and I appreciate the opportunity to come before you today. I realize your time is important, and I appreciate the opportunity. I hereby ask that the property that we have purchased be rezoned to general commercial so that we could proceed with the process of developing the property and moving ahead on the project.
Okay. Anybody else in the audience would like to speak?
Well, you
gotta
needed to
open up
the
We
public
have,
hearing.
okay, before they're allowed to speak. Okay, here we go. The floor is open to the public. Anybody would like to come to the podium? Yes, sir. State your name and address.
My name is Jim Robichaux, 1321 Stratford Avenue. I am here as a private citizen. I wish to address the proposed ordinance. I have a statement that you have a copy of, and I'll just read it. Mr. Santor's testimony at the 11 April, is the microphone?
It's the
on
flat.
The flat one.
At the 11 April Planning Commission meeting and his development application of 10 February 2023 stated that the proposed use for his development was metal building manufacturing. His application for a small comprehensive plan amendment restated the proposed use as commercial metal roll forming. Florida statutes define manufacturer as a business that is classified in sections 31 through 33 of the North American Industry Classification System. That system defines manufacturers as those businesses engaged in the mechanical, physical, or chemical transformation of materials, substances, or components to new products. This is definitely a manufacturing business, and manufacturing isn't an allowed use in general commercial or any other land use districts according to our current comprehensive plan and land development regulations. LDR definitions on page 2-14 clearly state manufacturing is classified as an industrial use. There are no industrial use districts implemented in the comprehensive plan, nor do any appear in the future land use map. Approval of any manufacturing development would first require creation of industrial districts. Adding industrial districts would require a text change to the comprehensive plan, policy 1.1.1, to add a description of such districts, a change to the future land use map to geographically depict such districts, and an addition to the LDR section 4.5 to describe the purpose, uses, and development standards for such districts. The proposed ordinance before us today does none of this, and even if approved, will not allow a manufacturing development to proceed. Ordinance 2023-414 pursues a land use change under Florida Statute 163.3187B, which is the small-scale comprehensive plan amendment process. Yet it does not propose the necessary text changes to the comprehensive plan policy 1.1.1 and future land use map to create the industrial districts which would be required to allow a manufacturing development. It is also non-compliant with that process in that text changes to both the comprehensive plan and future land use map must be adopted simultaneously under that statute. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Can you guys hear? Okay, some of them are saying no. If we move that and hook it there, it'll be louder.
You can't hook it there.
It won't hook up there.
It's flat. I can turn it up though.
Maybe this won't work. I don't know. I'm trying to, yes.
Should we call in the engineers?
Yes.
They'll just complicate us and try to complicate and charge us a lot.
The next person could be an experiment to see if we need to turn it up right now. Okay, anybody else from the audience that would like to come and speak? Mr. Reagan?
Jim, one of the things that I think we enjoy most about you is you're incredibly analytical.
Talking up here.
I know that, but I had to compliment him. I think we are conflicted during our last planning meeting. We are conflicted for a couple of different reasons. First is that I think we all liked Mr. Santora. I think that he exuded that he would be a tremendous partner for the city of Parker. I think he also let us believe that he was honest and he was really trying to give us an example of what he was going to be like as a business partner with us in the city of Parker. And when we explained to him about, the community redevelopment areas, some of the things that he said is, I'll do anything you want to do. I'll put those fences in, I'll put those sidewalks in, I'll put those buffers in, I'll put that foliage in, I'll put those trees in, I'll put those lampshades in. And then it started us to start thinking about manufacturing. And even though I know Jim has identified what the state identifies as manufacturing, if you look up the word manufacturing, it really talks about when you start with raw materials and then you end up with a different product. From what we understand is we're taking painted, prepared materials and we're bending them into shapes to make roofing. We're talking about no smokestacks. We're not talking about the traditional sense of manufacturing. We're not talking about gravel trucks and large noise. We're talking about a building, a 28,000 square foot building that is going to be housed, and even all the loading is going to occur inside. So that's why we were conflicted. We got a guy who we liked. We got a guy who we felt we could trust. We got a guy who said to us, we know that's a CRA area. We'll mold it to meet your CRA. He was even willing to shift buildings from the front to the back. The other reason we were conflicted is because we didn't get a chance to start talking about options. Like, for example, right now it's general commercial on the road. What about if we go ahead and shift general commercial to the second one in and put MU2 along the road so that Mr. Santora would build a beautiful professional building where people could see it?
Sir,
We never
time
got
is
to
up.
that
I'm
point.
sorry.
That's okay.
Appreciate you.
I think you got my gist.
Thank you,
Thanks.
sir. Anybody else?
I
Go ahead.
do want to just make a comment, Mayor. Again, we are not here on a development permit
This
application.
is just a land use change.
This is just a legislative land use change
Yes,
that
sir.
you all are considering.
Yes, sir. Anybody else would like to come to the podium? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, it's Diane Coates, 1521 Dover Road. This is my questions about his business. Nature of the work. Does your team actually do the installation on the base? Is that North Star Engineering? You mentioned you supply to other contractors. Will they be driving their trucks into your facility, or do you provide all the transportation? I have a note that I transcribed from the planning committee. It was Mr. Stryker saying, I think you've answered these two questions, but will you have anything like a lay-down yard there? Mr. Santora said. No, sir, everything will be inside presently. Slightly embarrassing, the facility that we're in and how it is set up, but as I expressed, we're going from a 5,000 square foot building to a 28,000 square foot building. Everything that we farm, roll form, and everything will be stored inside on racks. It's, again, I hate to say this, but it's not great for that material to be outside in its roll form, okay. And that's not what we want, and nor is it something that pleasant to the drive up and see, and so it will be totally different facility. We want to be able to serve. We have customers that are in Parker, and we so much work out at the Tyndall, and we have clients that buy from us and that are out there. And so we want to be able to serve and serve its professional way. Mr. Stryker. And my last question I was going to ask, I think you've answered what will be the lots on Business 98 used for. Stryker holds up a depiction of the brick building. Mr. Santor said it will be absolutely like that. Mr. Stryker, 1859. Is this a promise or is this a biscuit? Mr. Santor said, that is what we want to do. Mr. Stryker said, okay. How many subcontractors are you currently working with at Tyndall? Since you desire it, is it to be as close to Tyndall as possible? We could surmise that a considerable amount of truck traffic, 18-wheelers, would be traversing through two of our city streets, correct? Thank you.
That's it? Okay, thank you, ma'am. Hey, Bob.
Bob Moore, 1028 Pratt Avenue.
Yes, sir.
They talk about the semis up and down the street. Has anybody forgot how many wood trucks we had coming through here when the paper mill was open? I mean, we had semis traveling, and I think the business would be a good thing for the city of Parker. It could possibly employ some people and everything else. It would be a good use of that piece of property. That's just my opinion on it.
Okay, thank you, sir. By all means, ma'am.
My name is Kim King, address 4716 East 6th Street. I think that everybody needs to remember that the name of the road out front is Business 98.
Yes, ma'am.
Business 98. And I would rather see a business in there doing business than an empty lot. That's all I gotta say.
Thank you, ma'am.
Pat Fosick, 1344 Stratford Avenue. As Mr. Robichaud was saying, he identified the fact that the statutes, the LDR, the comprehensive plan, the land use requirements or the designations would all have to be changed in order to accommodate this request. And I don't see a real benefit to that. The land use change is permanent. It would mean that this particular parcel, whether it were used by Mr. Santora and then subsequently the building was torn down and sold again, that it would be forever commercial, depending upon your definition of manufacturing. I think it actually falls under the industrial category, which we don't even have in the zones within the Parker city limits. All of this to accommodate a business, yes, someone who is going to provide services to Tyndall primarily. He's indicated that. Depending upon the paperwork that he filed or his statement during the meeting, it could employ 6 people, it could employ 12 to 15 people. It's all over the place, and we don't know whether or not he's going to be bringing employees from the other office versus hiring new staff. In addition, he claims that one of the reasons why he thinks he should be able to change the MU2 property to commercial is because the Business 98 property is already commercial. Adjacency is not sufficient justification. Mr. Santora testified very early during the Planning Commission that he knows the rules regarding land development uses with regard to requesting and issuing development orders, that he has helped other clients come to the city. He said that he was aware of this before he bought the property, yet he still bought it knowing that it was completely outside of the CRA and all the other aspects that the Planning Commission has put together with regard to moving our city forward. And some of this goes back many, many years. Keep in mind the CRA was formed in 2008. That has been there for over 10 years, 10, 18, 15 years now. And now all of a sudden we're considering changing it. There may be concerns about a precedent being set, which I would agree with. If this precedent is set, then other developers coming into the city are going to ask the same thing. Can they put in a manufacturing business on an MU1 or even a residential parcel? I would hope that we wouldn't set that precedent. In fact, I think the precedent has already been set when Fulcrum made their presentation. I understand that they were told they could not build, manufacture, fabricate, whatever you want to call it, windows and also casings, doors, trim, that kind of thing. Yet here, that will be the only business associated with Mr. Santorum's business. What about the pole barn question on Highway 98, where the gentleman who has been a property owner in Parker for 20, 30 years, his property was destroyed. Yes, he's had 4.5 years to put it back together. He did not. He came before the council just this year and asked permission to put up a pole barn. We said no.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Anybody else from the audience? Now's the time. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Corey Petty. I live at 4409 East 3rd. It's the property right behind the property that he would like to build on, and I'm completely for it. I mean, we need new businesses and everything else coming in. Right now, Parker's kind of the slums. I hate to say it, but I've lived here my whole life. My grandma lives at 1129 West Street, and grew up here. I'd really like to see it prosper, you know. I mean, we don't have nothing going on. Paper mill just shut down. People need jobs. I'm slow, so it'd really help. Thank you.
Thank you.
How y'all doing? I'm Chuck Botterford, 5405 Fleming Street. I can remember where I live. You know, we're voting right now for the land change use. We're not actually talking about what type of building is going in there and what he's going to do with it and so forth. But since we already know, I mean, if you ride around in Parker and just take a look around, we need something here. We need something to get it jump started. And I know there are a lot of people here that don't want this. They say it's too close to the residential section. But some way, somehow, we've got to get this thing jump started. And I think it's a great idea, me personally. When you start seeing a new building going up and you see the construction, then it's a domino effect. Then there'll be other investors looking to do something. There'll be other investors looking to do something. Pretty soon there'll be some fast food up down on the Long Point. There'll be some hotels on Long Point. But we got to start somewhere. If it just stays blighted as it is, and it's so blighted right now, I think everybody knows that. Anybody that would deny that, I would like to hear about it. But it's so blighted, we got to start somewhere. And I think it's a good starting point. And this gentleman right here does a good job at what he does. And that's just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Jeanette Howard, 1123 East Park Street. I live here, and I think we deserve better. My concern is that Mr. Santora currently has a laydown yard in town. It is a laydown yard. And I understand that he says he doesn't intend to have one here, but I didn't intend for the Move It storage to look like it does today. I did not expect Fulcrum to look like it does today. So is it a promise or a biscuit? And what do I do when a year from now it's a laydown yard? Who do I go to? It's a done deal that can't be fixed. And I live here and I think we can do better.
Thank you, ma'am. Anybody else? By all means. Next time, sure, I promise you get a shot.
Hi, Bill Libby, 4717 Sunset Drive. Good afternoon, Mayor, council members, and citizens of Parker, and Mr. Santoro. I believe the lack of manufacturing authorization in Parker is not a mistake by the framers and visionaries who debated the subject, held public hearings, resulting in LDR, COM, and CRA plans that inspired a family-friendly village with the right mixture of supporting amenities. I believe perhaps one day those provisions may be reviewed. However, today, Mr. Santoro's plan is factually not authorized as identified by Mr. Robichaud. I think that we should listen to the people that were before us, before you, in 2006, when Mayor Brenda Hendricks and Mr. Tim Sloan got the CARA established. They had a vision back in that time, but they couldn't get the funds because we didn't have the ad valorem tax. That is now changing, and that incentive will soon arrive. At that time, we can kickstart the CRA and work on the blight. I want to thank Mr. Santoro because his presence and briefing was professional and impressive. And it's just what it is. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Sir.
Is Lumley here?
Good morning, afternoon,
Hello
evening.
there. My name is Douglas Kilpatrick, 733 North 9th Plaza. I've pretty much grown up here all my life, and I think it would be great to have a business up on the highway here, and it would probably draw a lot more businesses to Parker, which would employ a lot of people when it happens. And I do remember what used to be behind the church many years ago, and it was a boat manufacturing plant. It was called Cartercraft. When did the zoning change from commercial to residential? I'm curious.
I can't tell you exactly, but I remember when it burned. That was a good day. I think 2006.
Well, that was a long time ago.
2006
but,
is when Mayor
I
Hendricks
think
put
it would
into
be
play.
awesome to have a business up there,
Okay.
even if it was to reshape metal and send out. And like I said, it would draw other businesses here in Parker, which would bring a lot more jobs.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate you for your time. But also, go ahead, sir. Mr. Lumley, yeah, you're up.
You got him. Check him out.
Yes, I'm here. Jimmy Lumley, 4911 Sharon Drive. I'm not here to advocate one way or the other. Mr. Santoro has impressed me as a good businessman. What I would ask the council to do, and I trust you to make whatever decision is good for this city. What I would ask is that you put checks in place, whichever way it goes, so that this building cannot progress out to the highway. It can stay in the back 2 yards and be done with it. But have something in writing to assure us of this. We've lived on promises from other buildings. We all know who I'm talking about. So just put some checks and balances on it.
Thank you, Mr. Lumley.
Hey.
Hey.
My name's Donna Purdue, 627 North 9th Street.
Yes,
I've lived here for 30 years, raised my children here with my husband. I understand the CRA's been in place a long time. I also work here. And in the year that I've worked here, I have seen numerous businesses come to our window and leave because it's too strict. Because their business doesn't fit our comp plan or our LDR. And I think that needs to be looked at. Because we've had businesses come and we've had businesses turn and leave. So where are we going? And I think this is a great idea too. But that's just me.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate your time. I'd like to hear it all today, please. If you have something, please put it on the recording.
Beverly Hutto, 1001 West Park Street. I'm on the planning committee, but I come to you strictly as my own person tonight. So there's a couple of questions, and a couple of them might be things that Mr. Sloan can answer. In the LDR, under the low-intensity commercial, number 20, I think it's 21, says inside assembly facilities that do not have a manufacturing component, which do not generate industrial or which do not generate industrial sewage. So that being said, how do you have a industrial, let's see, what was the word? Inside assembly facility that does not manufacture? What are they assembling? Isn't that what manufacturing is in the definition? What would you take it to be? If they wanted to put a cookie company there with a big warehouse like Fat and Weird Cookies, which if you haven't had, they're wonderful. But it's a huge warehouse. They make cookies. They have a little sales place where they sell cookies. What would fall under that? Because this, to me, just in the wording, is a little kind of, I don't know, maybe not where we need to be. And is it possible to do a definition of light manufacturing rather than, I mean, it doesn't have to be full manufacturing. We don't want a battery assembly plant or something that's going to spout off all kinds of stuff, and I get that. But is it possible to do like a definition for light manufacturing in the LDR? Is that a possibility?
Want me to answer that, Mayor?
I mean, it's just simple, you know, yeah, you can do that or not.
The council can
Could.
amend the LDR
Okay.
to put
At any
whatever it
time.
wants to
Okay,
in there.
so then the second part of this is when we talk about the CRA. The CRA is, when they came in and said this is the area for the CRA, they froze the values of all of those properties. When the property goes above that value, we as a city receive a percentage of the taxes that are taken off of that, correct?
We get the differential
Right,
that
right,
results in the
right.
tax.
So now if that property as a church didn't pay taxes, we didn't get anything off of it, correct? I love churches, don't get me wrong, but they don't make us any money. So now if they take that property and they improve that property beyond what its actual value was when that was set and frozen, is that not the money that we would receive CRA funds off of?
Again, I'm not the tax collector, so I can't tell you
But I
for
think
sure.
those are questions, because I think as a city, money seems to be our big thing. And I think the more improved properties we have, specifically not just houses, because houses are great, but $200,000 or $300,000 not gonna cut it. We need improved properties, we're talking millions.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate your time. By all means, sir.
Don't start the clock till I get there.
I'm sorry.
You got 3 minutes, Mr. Palmer.
Don't take a lot less than that. So,
Address, sir. I'm sorry.
Paul Palmer, 1135 West Street. My question is procedural. I don't want to burn my powder. I don't want to burn my powder on the time that I have. So the question is, I'm unsure of how many times I could come up and talk about different parts of this thing.
Well, 3 minutes, sir.
So, but there was a discussion on a procedure. This is a procedural question as to you could talk at this point in time, and then when we start talking these other issues, you could talk again. I have something to say, but I want to make sure I say it at the right point in time in the meeting.
You're burning your clock right now. You're burning the time right now.
Oh, he said one time for non-agenda items and one time per agenda items. You can come up one time and have 3 minutes.
So this is, we're discussing, we went through the non-agenda, now we're talking about the first item on the agenda, which is the land use change for this property.
Okay, can I get my notes and then I'll do my little talk?
Yes, sir.
Will you start the clock again, please?
Ma'am, start the clock over.
So, you will have heard a lot of arguments, and you will hear a lot of arguments pro and con on all this. A lot of them are emotional arguments, but our responsibilities are just to follow our rules and regulations. The facts are that the justification for the LU change are not sufficient. Only 1/3 of that property has an explanation of what we are or not going to do. And so therefore, to grant a total change to all of that area to commercial without having a clear definition of what use for that plans are, leaves the city at quite a vulnerable position. Possibly after, I do believe, well, I gotta stay on my target here. We've already talked about the manufacturing facility and the DO, etc. Some people ask, why are we talking about that when we're doing an LU change? Well, when you bring a request for an LU change, you must also bring forth the arguments to justify it. That is why we require the DO. But when we look at what they're trying to use the land use for, and we can see that it's clearly in violation of our current regulations and rules, then it's like, okay, that's not sufficient justification to warrant an LU change. Now,
if we break apart their whole request, there's 3 segments of land. The first part against Business 98 is already commercial. The second part is, I call it mixed use 1, if I recall. And the third part is the residential. Mr. Santoro has already stated that he was willing to forego changing the residential component to general commercial. He said he didn't really need it. There were some concerns about whether the property could be built or not, but it certainly could be built on. I think we should have an amendment to state we will remove that under consideration. The real issues here are the precedents. We had an awful, wonderful opportunity with the hurricane and with your efforts to clean the place up, to create Renew. Okay, now, this last part is the emotional part of my appeal. So in the preface running up to the conversations on this particular topic, it was disconcerting to have people who work for the city, people who were on the councils, say things such as, you can't make a silk purse out of a cow's ear, you can't put lipstick on a pig.
Sir, time is up. Thank you for your time.
I think they got the message.
Okay.
Would anybody else like to address the council? If you got it, if you're thinking about it, now's the time to talk about it. Yes, sir. Come ahead.
Rich Musgrave, 1354 Stratford.
Yes, sir.
It's typical in a governmental body that you have to deal with the edges and deal with compromise, deal with kind of muddy parts. It's seldom that we get a black and white issue. And from everything that I've heard from the various speakers, whether or not to do the land use change appears to be a black and white issue. If it actually forbids what we're asking it to do, then it's pretty easy which way we go forward. I think the real issue that I hear in the dichotomy of the people who've been speaking is, what is the vision that we have for our city? What do we really want it to look like in 10 years? And I would submit that there are those that have different views of what that vision should be. And this council's obligation is to take all the information you have and create and communicate that vision to all the citizens of our fine, fine city. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor.
Anybody else like to speak?
David Marlowe, 5103 Stratford Avenue.
Yes, sir.
Sounds like to me there's a little confusion between some groups speaking that this is manufacturing and non-manufacturing. Well, I worked at a manufacturing place for a lot of years, and that's not manufacturing what they're wanting to do there. I bought land in Parker in 1985, built my house in 1990. Been here ever since, and I have not seen any to much improvements in this community since. Do I love this community? Shoot, yeah. I would have moved if I had. I love it here. But as for improvements, y'all have had plenty of time. You're not the only group I'm blaming. There's other mayors and other people that's been on this committee. So if this guy wants to build something, I'm all for it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Morrow. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Jerry Davis, 937 Pitts Avenue. I'm for their manufacturing as well. I am a business owner in Parker. We do a lot of work. I actually use a lot of their product. And from my understanding, they're not going to be working on weekends. We have a tree cutting business that's there. And, you know, like you said, we're just trying to get more money bringing in so we can do different projects here in Parker. I mean, we're the slow thing, you know. Even our police officers had to go to Springfield because we're not making any money. So it's just trying to bring more money into, by taxes, like I said, church don't bring no money in. These guys are, I know them pretty well, and they're good people, and I think it's a good business to bring to our city. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your time. Anybody else? Floor is open. If you've been thinking about it, now it's time to talk about it.
My name's Tony Romano. I'm 5013 Park Street. I'm pro-business. I'd like to see some more business come into Parker. Lived here most of my life, right across the line in Springfield and all over the area. But I mean, we can talk about what our projection for everything to be 5 years, 10 years from now. But just like we saw in 2018, Mother Nature can change every bit of that in a heartbeat. I say bring business in, let it thrive, let it bring more people. They're going to hire people to work. Maybe those people will want to come live in Parker. And it's not the business is not only for contractors. It's for me. It's for the local guy. If I want to build a dog shed, I can pull up there and say, I need 10 pieces of metal 4 feet long. Bam, I got it. If I want to put a lean-to on my daughter's house, I go pick it up and go get it. It's not just for contractors. It's for everybody, and it does bring people from. It'll bring people from Port St. Joe, Mariana. They're going to come to, and then they can use our other facilities. So I'm pro-business. I say.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. Anybody else before we close? I have one statement from.
You gotta close the public hearing.
It's just part of the public hearing. It absolutely needs to be said right now. Monday at 12 o'clock, I was approached by Pastor Danny Davis, and he wanted me to tell you tonight because he's in a different location and couldn't be here. He said, I support businesses in Parker. I've told the man I support the business. Please do not put my name or my church on social media making statements for me that I did not make. He asked me to tell you that today, and I've done as he asked. Okay, I'm going to close the meeting then.
Close the public hearing.
Yep, close the public hearing for this section of tonight's agenda.
And I want to remind the council mayor just that the initial burden is on the applicant to prove the entitlement to a change of land use. I want to remind the council that this property that he is seeking to change the land use on is not the piece fronting Business 98, but it is the pieces behind that. And those pieces are within sub-area 1 of your CRA, which, as you all know, is intended to be a traditional downtown with a mixed-use area, including retail, restaurant, office, and residential. So I want to just make sure you all are aware of that.
Thank you, Mr. Sloan.
Yes, sir.
Do we need a first?
I have some questions.
By all means.
If you don't mind.
Yes, ma'am.
Your current plant is in Alabama, correct?
I have one in Alabama, and I have one in Panama City. It's on Business 98 in Panama City. We rent that piece of property.
What is the volume coming in and out of both plants as far as the number of deliveries per day and the number of shipments going out per day?
Yes, on an 18-wheeler truck, we only get like 1 truck a week, and that delivers our coils. Okay. And I'm going to, so I don't tell you wrong, I'm going to ask Chuck, who runs my facility here in Panama City. Chuck, how many people come through and pick up in a day approximately?
We're pretty busy. Usually on delivery, we have a little small delivery truck. Usually five or six deliveries a day. Probably, I would say 15 to 20 customers a day in there. Who's there purchasing orders and that, you know. So most of it is picked up, you know. I understand, you know, at the other plant, you know, that's only 5,000 square foot, you know, so it's tight. I mean, if we brought all that stuff in, you know, we wouldn't have nowhere to work. That's why we're trying to better ourselves, you know, better Parker, be Parker strong. You know, I'm the one that actually come out and he told me to find the property, and I grew up in Parker right off Pratt Street, and I just, you know, for the years, you know, I haven't seen too much of a change, and I mean, I'll always like Parker, you know, and I have 4 or 5 guys right now. You know, I understand they said something about hiring. Well, if we know anybody right now, I'm hiring somebody in Parker. I'll give them a job, come in and apply at All Metal at 2120 East Business 98. But our whole thing is just making it, you know, better. We want to grow with y'all, and you know, if you live, work, or worship in Parker, you know, you're gonna get a discount on that metal. You know, that's what we want to do. We want to grow with y'all, and we're not just saying this.
The other question I have is, so this is the current volume you have right now is 5 or 6 per day at your current facility, which is 5,000 square feet. The new one is 22,000 square feet, and you have the contracts out at Tyndall. What is the estimated traffic that deliveries, loads that you'll be running based off of future productivity?
Yes, ma'am, absolutely. Based on the sales that we have now and my projected sales, he's responsible for doubling his business.
Okay.
And let me, in case I said something out of context or something not correct, we as All Metal Roofing and Siding do not have a contract with anybody at Tyndall.
Gotcha.
Okay? We as All Metal Roofing and Siding sell to contractors
Okay, I
who
understand.
will use our metal on the base.
For the facilities.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. And so we do not have, and so those contractors will be coming through our facility, pick up to take out there.
Gotcha, okay.
And I'm sure that y'all have read the dialogue through what went through the planning commission, but all the pickup and everything will be done inside the building. We'll have a drive-through through that building. And one of the other things that's been mentioned tonight is about the a lay-down area. That's my whole purpose in building that size of a building. That everything will be inside the building. And I showed pictures at the last one. I'll be glad to provide those. I'm sure y'all have seen them.
I gave them
Of
to
my
them.
other facility in Dothan. And around the building, it's parking lot and green grass and plants. And the town to, I have, you know, you come to a place and you meet people, and I have been treated with the utmost respect for those people who's been against my idea and for my idea, and I appreciate that. And with that same resolve, I'm telling these people, I will do what I say. Our purpose is however we can go about the process. And I understand it's a process, but the ability to be able to build All Metal Roofing and Siding at that location, and hopefully then build, and here's the biscuit, here's the promise, build then something else on 98 in the future. The plan right now is to build the All Metal Roofing and Siding, leaving the front so that I can build value to put something nice up front that is got it's something that I think what some people are visualizing of that. So
Thank you.
yes, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. I'm sorry, anybody else want to speak to that?
I have no
Mr.
questions.
Santor? No, nobody? Okay. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, I got one question. Is the building gonna be facing Business 98, or is it gonna be facing Second Street?
It's as I would like to do it as I stand here today, I want it to face Second Street, okay? If I have to turn it around and face Business 98, then the length of the building and those kind of things, the geometry then changes up a little bit, okay? So as I have laid it out and I stand in front of you and as two parts. I own North Star Engineering. I'm a professional engineer, professional land surveyor. And so I'm the engineer of record on this project. That's actually, you'll find it interesting, that's how I met Mr. Kirkpatrick. This week, I came to Parker to do a structural inspection. And we was talking about this. That's how, so I've already engineered it that way. Now, I stand before you today saying, if this doesn't get approved the way I would like it to, am I open to look at changes? I am, because I want to be here. But that's the way I have it designed at this point.
Well, my question is, I also think it should be put in on Second Street. But my concern is, now the back of the building is gonna be facing Business 98. What are you gonna do?
No, it's gonna be, I'm so sorry then, it's actually gonna be facing the west street. It's gonna be facing the cemetery.
Sideways, Mr. Chapel.
Oh, gonna be facing the cemetery.
And it's gonna run parallel to,
Okay, so it'll be, the side of it will be facing Business 98.
yes, sir.
Are we planning on putting a fence or anything up there, or?
As I told
Landscape?
Absolutely. As I told the planning commission the other day, when you're building a building that big, landscaping and stuff like that, we're willing to do. We're willing to fence it. We want it to be nice. We don't want to be an eyesore to the residents of Parker.
I think got all my answers, and
Okay.
on that note, I make a motion that we have the first reading of ordinance 2023-414.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion. We have a second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Burrow?
Yes.
Mr. Chapel?
Yeah, we're talking about reading the first.
Yes, sir.
This is just for the land use change.
Ms. Galbraith?
No.
Ms. Gibson?
No.
Mayor Kelly?
Yes.
Ordinance number 2023-414, an ordinance of the City of Parker amending the comprehensive plan future land use map, redesignating approximately 3.076 acres consisting of a parcel of property located at 909 West Street, having parcel identification number 25870-000-000 from mixed use 1 to general commercial, a parcel of property located at 4623 East 2nd Street, having parcel identification number 25869-000-000 from mixed use 1 to general commercial, a parcel of property located at 1008 West Street, having parcel identification number 25871-000-000 from low density residential to general commercial, and a parcel of property located at 4620 East 2nd Street, having parcel identification number of 25872-000-000 from low density residential to general commercial, providing for scrivener's errors and liberal construction, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date.
Thank you, Mr. Sloan. Yes, sir. Move on to the second. We're going to open up another public hearing for the request for the first reading of ordinance 2023-413, an ordinance of the City of Parker, and we'll read it when we get to it. I open the floor for a public hearing.
Pat Fosick, 1344 Stratford. Mr. Sloan, I think this is a question for you. At the various workshops that have been held talking about raising the fees, I understand that there's a statute under the Constitution. Is it 3% or 5%?
It's 5% now.
And do you have the statute?
I didn't bring it with me, no.
Okay, but it is 5%. So this would be a
Every other year.
And this is the 5% over
Yes,
the
ma'am.
existing fees. Okay.
If
thank-
our math is correct, it's 5% on each fee.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody that would like to comment before we close the public hearing? Nope, okay. Close the public hearing, go ahead. I guess we need to,
You have council discussion
yeah,
and
do
then.
you have anything?
No,
think
sir,
it's-
I was asked to prepare the ordinance, which I
It
did.
seems thin to me, it doesn't seem
and-
like it's even enough.
And,
You can't do any more than what we're doing.
5%,
5%,
that's it,
that's all
every
we
other
can do.
year.
I'll make a motion for the first reading of 2023-413.
Second that.
Got a first and a second, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Burrow?
Yes.
Mr. Chappell? Ms. Galbraith?
Yes.
Ms. Gibson?
Yes.
Mayor Kelly?
Yes.
Ordinance number 2023-413, an ordinance of the City of Parker, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Parker, amending certain provisions of Chapter 18 of the Code of Ordinances relating to businesses and licenses, providing for severability, providing a mechanism for the correction of scrivener's errors, providing for the liberal construction of this ordinance, providing for the codification and repealer clauses, and providing for an effective date.
Ready to move on? You want to vote on it? Can we vote on it?
That was just the first reading?
Yeah, first
That was
reading.
just the first reading, yes, sir.
Okay, item 3 is resolution 23-391, resolution of the City of Parker, Florida, adopting a policy protecting individuals engaged in nonviolent. And if you have any questions, Mr. Summerlin, is he here?
Yes, sir. He's
Okay.
here.
We got yours on the docket. Council have any questions for Mr. Summerlin? You give us a quick overview of what this is?
Basically, this is a requirement for one of the grants we have right now. We have to have this policy to qualify for the funding.
Yes, sir.
I make a motion, we move forward with the ordinance.
And the resolution.
The resolution, yeah. Hold on a second, we got people who want to speak from the audience. Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Pat Fosick, 1344 Stratford. Thank you, because my question was going to be what this was all about. I understand it. I'm glad that we're doing it in order to be able to get grant money. But my question is, how did it come from knowing we need it to being drafted and coming before the council when there's been no discussion with the public? I don't understand the process. I'm just asking that question.
Mr. Sloan?
Well, first of all, this was an issue that was brought to my attention by Mr. Summerlin and his staff, and I was asked to prepare the resolution. The resolutions by statute don't have to be published. They don't have to, you don't find a header in the newspaper or anything. So it's an isolated appearance before the city council, and I believe the city council was aware that I was doing this. They've been talking with Mr. Summerlin on an individual basis, so that's how it got here.
Thank you.
I'm also under the impression it was time sensitive, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Mrs. Summerlin?
We have a motion.
In a second.
We never finished the conversation before we had the motion. Okay, go ahead and call roll, please.
Well, this would be for the first
First.
for a reading, and then you have a motion to adopt.
So we're gonna vote the reading?
Yes, sir.
Okay, call a roll, please.
Ms. Burrow?
Yes.
Mr. Chappell? Ms. Galbraith?
Yes.
Ms. Gibson?
Yes.
Mayor Kelly?
Yes.
Resolution 2023-391, a resolution for the City of Parker, Florida, adopting a policy for the protection of individuals engaging in nonviolent civil rights demonstrations, providing for severability, correction of scrivener's errors, and construction, repealing resolutions in conflict herewith, and establishing an effective date. So now you would need a motion to adopt
Mhm.
the resolution, Mayor.
Make a motion to adopt the resolution.
I'll second.
Got a first and a second, you call the roll.
Ms.
Call the roll,
Burrow?
please.
Yes.
Mr. Chappell?
Yes.
Ms. Galbraith?
Yes.
Ms. Gibson?
Yes.
Mayor Kelly?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Summerlin.
And I will get you an updated version. I was a day ahead of myself, Mayor. I had the
Okay, sir.
third instead of the second on here.
Okay, you're doing good.
Yes, sir.
So, did you want to read the openings, or did you want the city attorney to read the openings and availability?
It doesn't matter.
Mr. Sloan, would you read item 4 for us, please?
Yes, sir. While discussing the LDR revisions, it was asked that the clerk remind the council that at the first meeting in May of upcoming committee appointments. At this time, we have 2 planning committee member seats that are open, 3 infrastructure sales tax committee seats that are open, and the special magistrate seat, which is up for reappointment. Anyone wishing to join one of the committees or the magistrate position or reapply for a position currently being held should complete an application and return it to City Hall prior to June the 1st. Now, I will tell you, Mayor, that that I did receive a copy of this and a request to review it and make amendments to it, and I do have a later version of the actual form, but the concept is
More or
that the
less.
clerk bring it to you, you all be aware that those vacancies could exist and that we'll have a form for people to fill out.
Okay, sounds good. So what he's saying, yes, ma'am.
Jeanette Howard, 1123 East Park Street. If I was interested in one of these positions, I think I should know who I'm running against.
They have the opportunity now to let us know if they want to
We
reapply
just
or
got the
not.
form out now. We don't even know who's
But
running against anybody.
are you asking on which committee who is not coming? It is on the infrastructure committee, it's Ms. Morris, Mr. Tyndall, and Ms. Wilson. On the planning committee, it is, I have it right here, it is Mr. Palmer and Mr. Stryker.
Thank you.
And they have to reapply as well, and magistrate, you
Thank
know.
you.
Yeah, thank you.
I don't think it's an election, no, ma'am. We're just gonna take the applications and the council will review it.
Correct, but if I like the people on the.
Oh, yeah, I understand.
Then I don't wanna run against them.
Makes sense, makes sense. All right. Okay. Do we have a task list to review today, ma'am?
You know, what, I misspoke. On the infrastructure committee, it is Mr. Merritt, Ms. Morris, and Ms. O'Brien.
Is that good? Okay.
Yes, sorry about that.
So,
Task list, we are on the last thing of our task list.
have we done it all?
We're there.
Pretty good.
You haven't told me to add anything new to it.
No, I haven't heard of anything else.
Merritt, Morris, and who?
It is
Merritt,
Morris.
Morris.
And O'Brien. And I put their minutes in there as well, so they knew they were up for it.
Mr. Chappell, anything else, sir?
Yeah, I got one little thing. I don't wanna bore everybody, but, there was an article put on the, internet about myself and, concerned about the, Easter egg hunt. And I just wanna clarify to the person or people that's not aware that when we do things here in Parker, it's not the city of Parker doing them. It's the citizens of Parker doing projects like planting trees, doing pancake breakfasts for the city, doing Halloween activities, doing the Christmas tree lighting ceremony. These are not Parker City functions. These are people here in the city that want to do things for Parker. And so when we do things like that, the letter indicated that the person thought that this city was doing this kind of stuff. And It is not. It is the citizens of Parker, volunteers. They volunteer money, they volunteer time, they volunteer whatever it takes to go and make the event a success. I'm sorry about the Easter egg hunt this last time, but it was pouring down rain and we didn't see any sense of putting. We have it also mentioned that one of our ladies in Parker donated 1,000 eggs, and I really appreciate that. But along with that, we had 2,500 eggs that we stuffed, and we spent a little over $350 in candy to stuff them. We also had a donation of 5-hour gift certificates donated, and in turn, when it rained, we went ahead and took the candy out of the eggs. We had a group of people from Parker, the citizens of Parker, took them out of the eggs, put them in a box, and the 20 gift certificates that we had, we give them to the city, to the school of Parker. And that's where that stuff went. Now the eggs were in a box. We got, like I said, we got about 2,500 eggs available till next year. Hopefully it won't rain. But I just want the citizens to realize that the city of Parker doesn't have the finances to do these little projects that we do. It's the citizens of Parker that do it. So, and the council does get involved. We have a lady on the council that kind of takes care of the Christmas tree lighting. We have another lady on the council that goes and makes sure we get plants and put them out along the fence and stuff like that. And the citizens came by and planted them themselves. So just want to make sure that you're aware that these are not city functions. These are city or the citizens of Parker doing these events. Along with that, it mentioned something about the Masonic Lodge over here taking over the Easter egg hunt. The reason that we use the Parker Lodge as a meeting place to do these different things is because here again, the city has a town hall, but since we are not a city function and we're doing it as our own, there's a fee for using that hall. Now, I have a key to the Parker Masonic Lodge. I can get in there anytime I want. We can use it, and it don't cost us anything to use that building. So that's why we use that building. It's not that Parker Lodge had anything to do with the Easter egg hunt, as so stated in the letter. So just want to make sure people understand that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Along with that, at the end of the month, we're planning on having a pig roast over at the Memorial Park on Memorial Day. It won't happen until about 4 o'clock that afternoon, because it takes about 8 to 10 to 12 hours to cook a whole pig. We're going to cook a whole pig. It will be a covered dish type of fare, so if anybody wants to come and eat a portion of the pig, we would appreciate any donations towards covered dish type thing. And here again, it is a city, Parker citizens putting this thing on. It's not the city. So be aware of that.
Thank you, Mr. Chapel. Ms. Galbraith?
I have a question for Mr. Sloan. Where are we with the grant writer? Have you looked over the email that was sent? And
I did, and looked at our purchasing policy manual, which is extensive, and I believe that since they're talking ultimately about more than $25,000, I think you're gonna have to bid it out.
Okay, so can I go ahead and request that the RFP be drawn up for that?
Certainly.
Do we need to vote on that, or can we just, is the
No,
request
I
good
think-
enough?
I think the clerk can just do that.
Absolutely.
I write the RFP for a grant writer.
Would you like to? Ms. Barrow? Ms.
The
Gibson?
only thing that I wanna say is that I don't think you realized how much time and energy and his own personal money that Mr. Chappell puts into these events.
That's right.
And, I saw that post and, there couldn't be a more selfless man. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.